Hello, hello. Welcome, Facebook land and general internet people. This is August the 12th, 2020, and it's Wednesday night Hoshinden meditation and breathwork activity. It's been rolling on for months and months, and doing a good job. These have been really useful for me and hopefully for you, both as an opportunity to sort of continue just having a place to practice this kind of breathwork and these meditations, part of Hoshin, and also to sort of convey that information and actually dialogue or discourse about that. So tonight we're going to make, well, I'll wait for a couple of minutes to let everyone jump in and join before I comment. But we're going to make a little bit of a departure from just the usual run that I've been, and the platform framework that I've been using for these videos, where it's been really aimed at beginners, and the purpose has been to provide every week an opportunity for us to kind of get back on board with our breathing skills, spend some time, exploring, working our way through step by step, and then making increments. So tonight we're going to jump straight into the microcosmic orbit. We've done more than enough prep work to be able to start that activity. I hope that you're well and that you had a good week since Friday, since I saw you guys last. There's been more talk among the Hoshin students. I've had some video chats with a few of you, and some messages and emails, phone calls. More and more people have been asking for the group Zoom meeting again, if we could do a social gathering. I think that's a great idea. So I will absolutely organise something. I'll set a date, put it out there to the group, and then I'll send the invite, and we can have another, maybe a Saturday afternoon catch up or something like that, or a Sunday afternoon. That was really fun last time. I'm just noting my really strange regrowth in my haircut. Yeah, I think that's about it. So we'll get on with it for tonight. Welcome those who've just joined. We're going to go through very quickly our 5 sense observation practice, because it's just a really easy way of slipping into this activity. And then we're going to jump straight ahead to the microcosmic orbit. So everything that we've been doing the last 16 sessions or so, or 50, this is session number 17, I think. Yeah. Wow. Everything we've done previously, I said lots of baby steps. Tonight we're just going to start jumping into some more fun action. So just beginning wherever you are, comfortable or not, breathing in through your nose, down into your belly, so that the breath stretches the ribs and out through the mouth. As you just continue this cycle of breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, and in and out. So you can feel your lungs really reaching out and stretching and expanding. Feel the stretch on the side of your ribs and the back of your kidneys. And let's start with the sense of hearing, the audible sense. So we're going to take your hearing out and your focus and your attention. What can you hear? I want you to listen to the furthest away thing that you can hear. And I'm only going to give you 5 breaths to start listening out very far, and then slowly listen in closer and closer. And then we're going to move on to smell. So it's going to be very fast. So off we go. We'll do 5 full breaths, just listening to what you can hear. So now I'm moving my attention closer. What can I hear close by? My own breathing. Now I'm going to move to the eardrums, listening to the sound of hearing itself. Let's do one more. And now relaxing the attention to the audible sense, moving on to the sense of smell. So we're going to do this over 6 breaths. We're going to breathe in. The first 2 breaths will be smells in the surrounding room. And then the middle 2 breaths will be smells that are very close to the body. And the last 2 breaths will be smelling the smell receptors themselves. So off we go, we're breathing in and out. What can you smell in the surrounding space? And now moving it closer, what can you smell very close around you? If you're wearing any perfume or the smell of your clothing perhaps. Breathing in and out. Another breath. And now smelling the actual receptors of smell. Okay, now we're going to move on. So we're moving very fast through these. We're going to move on to the sense of taste. So we're going to begin, we'll do this over 6 breaths again, breathing through the nose, down into the belly, stretching out the ribs, the diaphragm, and then breathing out, exhalation through the mouth. I want you to begin by tasting the tastes and the fragrances that are available in the air. Maybe in the room around you, scents that linger. Sometimes you can taste the smell of flowers and so on. And then the middle 2 breaths, we're going to move to the tastes inside the mouth. And then the last 2 breaths, we're going to focus on the taste of the taste buds themselves. As we'll step in those progressions. So we're starting off, eyes open or closed, breathing in and out in through the nose, down into the belly. You want to breathe out slowly for this as you taste. You can breathe out through the nose if you want for this activity. You're interested in what you can taste in the surrounding air. Now moving the focus to the inside of the mouth as we focus on taste. What can you taste? The taste sensation, observation. Now moving to the actual taste of the taste buds themselves as you're breathing in and out. Can you taste the tongue? Okay, notice the similarity in the relationship between smell and taste and how their activation of the observation is oppositional to each other. Yeah. So on the inward breath, we exhibit smell. We experience smell. So on the outward breath, we experience taste. So they're very closely linked. We're going to move now to the sensation of, we'll do the visual sensation again on the 4th one. So eyes open or closed. And we're going to begin, we'll do 6 breaths again for this. 6 breaths. And, and we're just going to be initially staring out into fast space, eyes open or closed, with our interest in the peripheral vision. And then the middle 2 breaths, we'll be focusing on the near sight. So if you have something up in front of you, eyes, where just at the boundary of focus, or if you have your eyes closed, focusing on the inside of the eyelids. And then the last two are going to be looking at the tissue of the eye itself. We're interested in seeing the vision, seeing the cones and rods, seeing the receptors. Okay, so off we go, breathing in and out. Oh, pardon me, I think I've yawned every video for the last 3 videos. Breathing in and out. Really engaging that peripheral vision. Okay, now the middle 2 breaths, near sight. So we're interested in very close vision. You can look at something like your palm. It's got to be right at the boundary of your focus. Or you can have your eyes closed, and then you're looking at the inside of the eyelids. Off we go. 2 breaths. Okay, now we're going to move to the actual tissue of the eye. So we're interested in seeing the tissue of the eye. Can you see the cones and rods? Off we go, breathing in and out, eyes open or closed. Oh, pardon me. And just softening the focus on the sense of visions. Now we're going to move to the 5th of the 5 sense observation exercises. So we're looking at the tactile sense, the experience of the weight of the body. Not just the weight, rather, the actual feeling sense, but we're going to start with weight. I want you to begin with finding the experience of pressure wherever it is that your body meets the ground. So if you're sitting in a chair, maybe it could be bottom of your feet, soles of your feet, could be backside, bottoms of your legs, backside of thigh. If you're lying down, obviously it's going to be like head, skull, shoulders, hip, flexion down, the backs of maybe the calves, the thighs, the feet, etc. If you're lying on your face, I don't know why you're doing that, but face, chest, shoulders, hips, knees, feet. So you get the idea. If you're hanging upside down, suspended from the ground, then probably head. You want to take your attention to the experience of the body that is currently, you could describe as like a texture of pressure. And as we breathe in and out, we're just going to look at that experience. Just want you to watch that experience. Do 2 breaths for that part. Okay, now we're moving our attention from the sense of pressure to the actual skin that's going to make contact. So, for example, if you're sitting, I want you to choose one particular part. So I might choose the bottom of my feet that are on the ground. Even though there's lots of part of my body that are making contact with the ground and there's pressure, I'm going to choose the base of my feet, maybe my heels, the balls of my feet. And I'm just going to be curiously interested to see if I can really expand and define the experience of the tissue, the actual skin. So zoom in into that area of your body that you've chosen to something no bigger than a 5-cent coin, and really focus on the tissue. Can you feel where the skin meets whatever, the ground, the carpet, your shoes, the clothing, etc. Off we go. 2 breaths. Remembering the tongue sits on the roof of the mouth in these exercises, behind the top 2 front teeth. All right, now we're going to move to the last 2 breaths in this activity. We want to actually expand that observation like we were listening to the eardrum. and or hearing the eardrum, we were smelling the smell receptors, tasting the taste buds, and seeing the tissue of the eye. We're going to be interested. This one's a bit of a flip trip. We're going to explore the sense of feeling of the ground or the clothing or the shoe or whatever it is, not the skin itself. So my interest is in experiencing my body, the skin and the flesh, from the perspective of the ground or the shoe. And so these are like koans, these are like mental impossibilities that we practice. So breathing in and out. Can you isolate the experience of the tissue of your body from the ground or the carpet or the chair or the shoe or whatever it is that you've chosen? All right, and just relaxing there and resting the focus on the sense observations. So we'll just breeze through the 5 sense organs and very quickly run through. I said at the start of this video, for those of you who've just joined recently, that we're just going to jump in this one. The last 16 sessions have been lots of beginner introduction, lots of prep, lots of moving, and now we just have to jump forward. I still do that that sort of 10-minute exercise or whatever it was. It's a really good one for you to do if you're finding that your ability to just reach into sense experience, maybe you're in the middle of an argument, or you're really angry and frustrated, or you're freezing cold, or whatever it is, something's going on that's just encapsulating your focus. That can be a really simple way of just regaining some clarity and a sense of power over your ability to project, to position your thought and direct your thought. So if you just close your eyes and you listen to the sounds that you can hear. And suddenly you find there's a whole host of information and sensation. There's a whole host of sounds going on, little things. Crinkling of packets of paper in the neighbour's house, the dog barking, might be cars at wherever you are, in whatever time you're watching this, etc. Your own breath should be so loud that it's almost deafening if you were to focus on it. That can just really help to reorient your sense of reality with the experiences that you're having around you. Okay, so now like I said, we're going to just totally jump forward from, we're not going to get into any of the individual finger experiences. We're just going to go straight into the microcosmic orbit. So this is the breath work where we're rotating the breath and the observation from the top of the head, from the crown all the way down the torso, and traditionally to the perineum, so right underneath the trunk. So effectively what we're interested in is the spinal column, but we look at it from these 2 extreme points. You can do this with your eyes open or closed. Totally up to you. You can do whatever you want. Standing, backflipping, paragliding, no one cares. What we're going to do is breathe in and out. I'm going to begin by just observing the top of my head. If you're new to this, you might find that hard. You can start on the face. So it could be the nose or the skin under the eyes. It could even be sometimes the skin around the mouth is easy to hone in experience on, or the brow. So you can start there and just explore as you just look there and breathe details of sense. That's where you want to start. If you have been doing this for a while and you're able to do that at the top of the head, then I want you to focus at the top of the head. It could be the hair follicles, or an experience of tingling at the very, very top of the skull. We're just going to take a few breaths. And our interest is just to allow that experience to heighten slightly. So if it becomes louder if feeling could have a volume knob, like if you could say that there were decibel volume of, or decibels of feeling volume, we just want it to slowly turn up the volume of your experience. Two more breaths. And the last breath. Okay, so you should be able to experience some kind of nervous system feedback, maybe like twitching or tingling or scratching or some kind of blood pulsation, or it could be heat. Your ears might feel like they're suddenly hotter, whatever. I said that we're going to go from the head to the perineum, but first we're going to experience that from the experience in the head to the feet. So now I just want you to look at your feet mentally. Just observe your toes and your feet. And we're going to take 5 breaths, and your job is simply to watch the feet, any part of the feet, watch the toes, until they continue to turn up the volume knob of feeling feedback. You don't have to twist them or tinkle them, just leave them where they are and just watch what happens. 5 breaths, in through the nose, tongue on the roof of the mouth, out through the mouth. So instantly, you should experience like a heightened sense of sensation in the feet. Keep going. Two more breaths, still looking at the feet, mentally, observationally. Last breath. Okay, so now we're going to take that experience right back up to the head. So if you needed to explore the face, you go there. If you were able to start getting some tingling sensation or some nervous system feedback on the top of the head, go straight for that. We're just going to do 3 breaths this time at the top of the head. Eyes open or closed. Off we go, breathing in and out. You have to really draw your attention away from the feet and just look at the face or the top of the head. Top of the ears if you want a bit of a challenge. One more breath, focusing up here. All right, now immediately we're going to look at the feet. So back to the feet, 3 breaths. And you've got to completely just ignore the face. Just fade it into the background and observe the feet. Feet, 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 feet. Toes, toes, toes. One more breath down at the feet and the toes. Okay, so we're going to start with the head and the feet rather than the head and the base of the trunk, just for now. What we're going to do is we're going to do a whole breath at one of those points. So I'm going to breathe in up here at the head, top of the head, and then I'm going to breathe out and stay my observation of the head. And then I'm going to breathe in at the top of the head, and then as I breathe out, I'm actually going to draw my attention down to my feet, as if it's like a waterfall down the body, front or back. So that at the end of my exhalation, as I'm about to take an inward breath, I'm at the feet, ready to start experiencing, observing, watching for the tactile feedback of the feet, and the sense feedback. We'll do a full breath at the feet, and then the inhalation, and then on the exhalation, drawing back up the body, up into the top of the head. So at the end of the outward breath, we're back up the head, the face, or the top of the head. And then you breathe in, we do the same thing, a full breath, and then a breath in, and then do the loop. So I'm going to start at the top of the head. Okay, so I'm going to start here. If you were using the face, do that. If you're using the top of the ears, do that. So we take one full breath and just observe the sensation available in the head, in the face. Breathing in and out. And now breathing in, full breath. And on the outward breath now, just drawing the attention, literally walk it through your body, through your bones, through your skin, down into your feet. So that at the end of the breath, you're at your feet, at your toes. Okay, now inward breath should be at the feet. Observe the tingling or sensation in the feet. And now an inward breath, full in breath. And now on the exhalation, walking back up, like you've got a pencil and you're drawing this pencil line up the body. It could be through the bone structure or the muscles, the musculature, no one cares. Up through the skin, through the body, so that you end the exhalation back at the head. And breathing in. And breathing out. And now breathing in, full breath. And exhaling, drawing down into the feet. It should feel like a waterfall, like a heavy waterfalling drop down into the feet. Full breath in and out, at the feet now. Experiencing the feet. Breathing in and out, drawing up the body, all the way up to the face or the head, up through the trunk, back into the face. Breathing in and I'm going to let you do the next one on your own. I'll just follow you with the breath. Breathing in and off we go. And breathing in at the feet. And now in. And breathing out, drawing the focus back up the body. And breathing in. And just rest for a moment. Okay, so hopefully you might feel a little bit giddy and heated. So that process, that specifically is a form of marrow washing, bone washing. You wash the focus and the attention up through the body. And you get this beautiful waterfalling feeling down as your sense of weight kind of trickles into your feet, and your feet they really feel like they just gain blood and pressure. That's the microcosmic orbit. Could be run through the head and the feet, but we're going to run it from the top of the head to the perineum, so the very bottom of the torso, in between the genitals and the anus. So we've got this right between the spine. So my interest in this breath work now, we're no longer going to be taking these full breaths and then doing this wave. As I breathe in, I'm going to just do my little pencil, my mind, my imagination, and really observe sensation up the trunk from the perineum, up, front or back, doesn't matter, to the head. And then when I breathe out, it's immediately going to descend again, back down through the trunk. And what we're interested in is seeing if we can find sensation along the path. So the face, the head, the perineum will be very easy to observe. We're interested in whether in the inward and outward breath, can we also gain some senses of maybe like the skin sensation on the front of the body and the chest, or the bone sensation, the ribs or the spine itself and the bone of the spine, maybe the kidneys, or the sides and the ribs. So we're going to start. Let's start at the top of there. So remember, what we're going to do, we take a full breath just to get started, and then when we breathe out, we're going to start this little process, just waterfalling down, not to the feet this time, but to the very bottom of the trunk, the perineum. So breathing in, and then just breathing out and drawing our little imaginary pencil, looking for sense and feeling down to the perineum to your outer breath. And then breathing in, drawing back up the body, back up to the head. And now breathing out, doing the same thing, drawing down to the bottom of the trunk. And now breathing in and drawing up. And breathing out and drawing down. I know that your feet might be calling out for your attention, but take your attention to the base of the perineum. Breathing in. Back up. And now out again. So we're just doing this little circuit, this little loop. And this is called the microcosmic orbit. Yeah, this is the lesser Kanandli. So breathing out, down and in. Up into the head and down. And then in. And down. And I'm just going to give you a couple of, maybe a minute. You're going to do this in your own time. So I'll cease talking. I won't have frozen, don't worry. Let's go, we'll do this together. Your own breath count. Okay. So as we just breathe, just relegate that into your background mind. And as you breathe and continue that cycle, just devote half your conscious attention to that. What you should have noticed is that it should be becoming easier and easier and easier to experience sensation feedback in the head, in the face, and in the perineum. And maybe if you're getting quite good at this, at points all through the body, texturally down the body. You can actually feel eventually literally like a wave of observation, almost like you have a chill and it ripples down your body. This wave of sensation, of heightened sensation, down the front and up the back, or down the back and up the front, or down the middle and up the middle, whatever. So this microcosmic orbit, one of the things that it's often related to is simply activating the focus of these sense organs, yeah? And by bringing attention, it tends to generate heat and warmth. It's one of the byproducts of this practice, so that the body tends to become warm. And you're breathing, it's an effort, so it's a focus activity. And you're applying your cognition to actually, I wouldn't even say activating, maybe just engaging the nervous system, and specifically the parasympathetic nervous system. So this practice, this process is very simple once you get into it. If you can begin by feeling some textural feedback, some sensation, maybe some tingling or whatever, somewhere in the body, and you start there and then you swap to somewhere else, and then you go back to there and swap and back, and you just continue oscillating and eventually the oscillation will turn into a circuit, into an orbit. So the microcosmic orbit is the beginning practice. It's a practice that all the color belt grades in Hoshinden should be doing, certainly by now. And it's the practice that all the black belt grades absolutely must be doing. Every time we sit down in class to bow and we get ready to do the bow, all black belt grades and above, all black belt grades should automatically begin that kind of breathwork process. Yeah, they should sit down and, whether they have their eyes closed or not, instantly begin engaging the information with the senses, so that the heightened audible sense and the heightened smell and the heightened taste, that's how those skills come about. So remember, I've talked about this a lot. Those skills are called siddhi. They are mystical powers, and they are not the primary goal or interest. They are often talked about in spiritual texts, and it's really, really specifically in Zen, in Dhyana, they're talked about as like distractions, fallacies, the illusions that you chase along the way, because they're relating to gaining and obtaining, and they kind of like they tighten in, when the actual question, I've mentioned this every video, the question that you're asked in this type of meditation is not, can you increase your sense of hearing so that you can hear a car 10 kilometers away? That wasn't the question. The question was, what can you hear? And that question is unanswerable. It should never end. You'll never reach that. You'll never be able to answer that question completely. There'll always be something extra that you could hear, or there'll be greater detail of it, or it'll divide into like almost like a 3D sense of hearing, where you can gain a relationship between the tire of the car and on the road, and differentiate that from maybe the engine sound, or the wind wishing past, and so you gain this great depth of clarity. It never ends. Yeah. And so if you end that and you're like, yes, and you practice focusing your hearing, looking for something so that the goal is to have good hearing, you're waylaid, because you're no longer expanding, you're no longer really interested in the actual question. Yeah, you've just found something and now you're there, which is fine. If your interest is to develop excellent hearing and to be able to feel sensation in your fingertips, and to be able to smell and to taste really beautiful details in aroma, that's excellent. But don't confuse that with an interest in meditation, because an interest in meditation is not the goal-oriented outcome of any of those things. Yeah, the interest in meditation is answering the question, and the questions themselves are the method. And so the questions form the activity. Yeah, you say, what can I hear? Bam, instant. You know everything you need to know. You know, a book on meditation wouldn't need to be more than that line. But we, you know, we tend to convey through a lot of metaphors. That's why there's 16 of these videos and not just me for 1 minute being like, do this, okay, goodbye. And same, you know, it's taken 20 years to get to this point. And I've had lots of wonderful teachers and studied lots of different things. And I found these skills and these activities are washed through martial arts, especially in Hoshin, but also through Qigong that I've studied, through my yoga study, through Iyengar, definitely through sort of like Qigong practice towards, maybe not what the goal would be, towards a heightened sense of body activity. You can actually smell the fresh trees, and you can feel the sense feedback in your skin. I used this, so talking about city, I used this series of activities a long time ago, about 15 years ago, when I was introduced to them, specifically the skin sensation, increasing the feedback in the skin. I used this activity when I had an accident, strange accident. It was an ice skating accident. And through how it all worked out, at the end of the day, I ended up with an ice skate through my leg, my left leg, and someone else's ice skate, or else it'd be really weird. And what it did was it took a chunk right out of my leg down to the bone, and it was not stitched up, it was packed, you know, the whole story about this, poor medical treatment at the time. But what happened was a lot of scar tissue grew. It wasn't, you know, sewn back together. A lot of scar tissue grew in that hole, in that gap, as it healed over the months and months. And what I was left with was, you can only a very little scar, but the actual scar tissue itself had no nerve feedback. So, you know, I could run my fingernail over my leg, and it'd be like, you could feel the fingernail, and then there'd be a chunk about this big where there was just no sensation. I could feel pressure if I pushed it, but there was no other sense, you know, like nerve feedback. And I assume all the nerves had died. And I used this specifically, my interest was like, I wonder if it would be possible for me to expand and encroach the sense of nervous system feedback into that area. And that was my interest at the time. This was 15 years ago. And I just, that was my goal, you know. So actually at the time I wasn't really interested in meditation. I was interested in this, you know, I had this question, can it do this? I was quite skeptical. And I was absolutely amazed to find that as I continued to do that practice, slowly I could gain sensation. And it started around the edge of the scar tissue, you know, at the top, and then slowly encroached. And even now, it's not like, it doesn't feel the same as the rest of my leg, but I can feel in great detail of sensation and touch feedback that I can remember it was just completely numb. You know, it was really interesting to me. It took maybe like, I don't know, a year or more for that to happen. And it was actually, I did that long after the injury. You know, the injury was maybe 5 years prior to that. So it was like this little experiment that I was enjoying doing on myself, just as an example of how I've used that. And it, you know, it was really great. I'm glad I did that. That's not the meditation. It's just a fun byproduct. I'm going to check the time because I have a feeling, oh yeah, I've got 15 minutes left. Now, the microcosmic orbit is really useful in Hoshin, just in general, in Qigong in general. Glenn Morris, I talked about this in the Fridays a couple of weeks ago, when I can answer that question, Hannah. It's a good question. I will answer that in a sec. When Glenn, in his books, so he's the founder of Hoshinden Jutaijutsu, when he comments about enlightenment, so Kundalini, there's a lot of use of the term Kundalini and the process and the act and discussion of what that is in Hoshin. When Glenn talks about enlightenment, he specifically references it as enlightenment is, from his perspective, a biochemical phenomena of when the human being can connect the genitals or the groin and the perineum to the brain. and specifically is able to use the energy, the sexual and creative energy for thinking. And that's you know, in a good one-liner, there's the purpose of the use of the outcome. There's a whole bunch of side stuff as well, but that's really the main focus. And so this microcosmic orbit is the starting point for that, because that activity is really all you need to do and practice and continue in order to begin being readied or prepared for the more permanent experience of the connection of the two. That you no longer need to sit down and spend 5 minutes breathing and focusing and slowly drawing up. Anywhere that you move in your body, the heightened sense is just there, and that there's just this constant moving, and it can feel like just this warm wave or this cool wave just moving constantly in the background of your being. So it's all stuff that you know, I talk about in Hoshinden, and you can just read Glenn's books, the Path Notes of an American Ninja Master, the first one, which is just such a hilarious book. Answering Hannah's question, yeah. So Hannah says, I think I watched you. So we're talking about the breathwork for that activity with the nerve sensation with the skin on the left leg. She said, I think I watched you use it more recently too. Yeah, one night in class. So I remember this. After getting kicked in the eye. Was that what I was doing? Yes, that's exactly what I was doing. That was me. That was an exam for one of my students, and me giving way too much grace and being far too polite, and kind of dropping my guard to make spaces, and then getting really taken off guard when this student just super kicked me in the face, and her toe just pressed my eye into my skull, cut around the eyelid. Super painful. And I remember having to pass over teaching the class just of the exam for a minute, a couple of minutes, and spend time. And my interest was purely just in focusing intently on the experience sensation of the pounding and the throbbing pain in the eye, and then breathing, and then taking that focus and thinking about my feet so I could engage the two points. And then I was able to do so. There's something that Shakyamuni Buddha commented on, and I have found it to be true in my experience, and I use it as a tool. And I first discovered it during a Vipassana it's about 12 years ago. Yeah, 13 years ago, 12 years ago, when I had a Vipassana sit, at my first sit. And what it basically states is that the experience of something, whatever it is, the sensation, the smell, the taste, and absolute focus cognitively at the point of that can't exist simultaneously. So the idea is that, and his observation in his meditation practice was that if there was pain, if there was throbbing pain, to take the focus of the mind, cognition, directly, not even just into the periphery of the pain, but right into the absolute guts, core center of the pain experience, that lo and behold, all of a sudden, the experience of pain just diminishes. It doesn't vanish all of a sudden. It's not like you can get shot and be haha, it just diminishes the experience of the pain sensation. Not the fact that you're bleeding to death, but the pain. And what I have found that does, when I've used that, is immediately relax my body, because the sensation of pain and tension, so in pain we tend to get really tight, which obviously is going to constrict blood flow and reduce oxygenation. What we want to do, what we actually need for healing is blood flow and oxygen species movement, and we want nutrients and cellular regeneration and healing. So, as well as clotting, we don't want a heartbeat to be pounding away in like there's no tomorrow, pumping blood out. We actually just want to return ourselves to this state of openness and softness and ease. And I found I use that whenever I get injured. And the one with the eye that Hannah brought up, yeah, great point. That was extremely painful. It was excruciatingly painful. And usually I can do both. I can teach a class and focus on the sense of pain, half-half. If I twist my ankle or something or whatever, and just kind of chill and then move on. But at that time I couldn't. The pain was so excruciating that I had to focus fully for a few minutes, a couple of minutes. But what I find is that when I'm able to do that, my experience of just the healing of that injury is rapid compared to when I constantly avoid it or like maintains this constant agony and ache. And I've used it physically. I use it whenever I cut myself, like dash, and then there was a great one. I remember I slammed the door of my car once and just crushed my fingers a couple of years ago. It's like and I get them out. It's a hell of a door. I get them out and they're just black. I was like, fudge. And again, just saying things like that throbbing pain, just really honing directly that throbbing pain, the point of that pain. And it's hard going in, but then you get there and it's like it really diminishes. And then just use that to breathe and relax. And immediately, I found that then I could feel all this pulsing sensation. I could feel nerve sensation, information returning to me from the fingers. And the bruising had gone by the next afternoon completely. They were just back to normal. So again, these are siddhi. They're really just forms of siddhi. They're extra special side bonuses, but they're not the goal of meditation. They're really useful. They're really fun, but they're not they're not why you're meditating. Yeah, meditation is an opportunity to reorient ourselves with whatever it is that we choose to orient that to. And if you think about that, thinking about something that engages emotion around it is simply a form of meditation. If you're constantly thinking about terrible possible things, well, then you're orienting yourself to that to that reality, that experience. That's a no-brainer, And if a particular thought generates great body tension, and then generates like a particular even taste, or maybe like a metal taste or a sour taste, or you can, the memories are so vivid that you can reach back and you can hear people screaming, in your memories of your trauma in the past. You're like, well, you're simply orienting yourself to those experiences. So the meditation is to orient you with something, reorient your mind with something. Imagine the mind adrift without any of the five senses. Probably impossible for us to actually grasp, So the mind can't penetrate the material experience. The mind is adrift only in the world of time. The mind can't experience directly anything of like a tactile material nature. It's the body that experiences that, and then the mind by proxy can interact and build a library and a reference of that kind of interaction. The mind, isolated from the five senses in the body, is only oriented in time. All that it has is motion of progression. So you could observe, maybe thoughts come and go. So there's some kind of time variation. Whereas the body doesn't sense time like that. If you think about what the five senses do, the five senses don't directly penetrate a sense of time or motion. Yeah, you need to cognitize that conceptually. Even holding on to something that's moving fast is just divided into particular textual experiences of motion that could be related to motion, but it's not motion itself that you're feeling. It's like it's just a snapshot of each particular point in time. It's the mind that contextualizes that and says, "Oh, time is passing. Oh, look, you look at the mirror today. Time is passing. You're aging." Very well, sometimes. So I hope that's that. I reckon I'll leave it there for tonight. So the microcosmic orbit, we're just going to keep jumping into this, much faster, like in these videos. We're not going to spend as much time going through the practices. If you want to still do that, if you watched tonight and you were like, "What the hell? I have no idea what he's talking about, and I didn't feel a damn thing," go back and watch the last 16 videos of meditation. Scroll back through the page, go back on YouTube, because that's the progression to get us to here. And then from here, we're going to keep moving quite quickly, exploring and building and developing the microcosmic orbit, because that's something that I really want to get down solid for the Hoshinden students. Hope you have a good night. Enjoy your Wednesday night and Thursday, and I will see you Friday night for Hoshinden philosophy and theory. Ciao, ciao.